Hey folks, this is Bailey from Dank Wargaming, and today we're continuing our series on how to charge in the game Warhammer 40,000. And today we're going to be looking at my two favorite techniques in the fight phase, how to tag and also how to trap models in combat. Let's get to it. I'd like to welcome everybody back to the tactical board where I can make some quick introductions here. We have Matt's lovely Death Guard Blightlord Terminators over here, Matt being a member of the Dankless team. We have my Dark Angel Scouts here in the middle. Then on the far side we have a classic Whirlwind painted by my high school English teacher Ashley that he sold to me along with a large collection at a fair price in college that I have lovingly maintained and added to ever since. Now the key to our first technique today, tagging, is having a good understanding of all the phases of the game. The key here is the shooting phase. That Whirlwind over there ignores line of sight and can do an awful lot of damage to things I don't want it to in the shooting phase with its long-range missiles. So I don't want it to shoot. Well, the rules for shooting the shooting phase state that things that are not in combat, unless they have pistols, or things that did not fall back, can shoot in the shooting phase. So if I want to stop that Whirlwind from shooting, I need to get it in the next turn, I need to get into combat. Now, the one key exception to all of this is if things fly. Don't try and tag things that fly because they can fall back and still shoot. But that Whirlwind does not have fly, so this should work on it. Now, I would like to just declare it as a target of one of my charges, but the problem is that it's not a legal charge target. It's more than 12 inches away from my Blightlords, so therefore I cannot declare a charge against it, which means I can't fight it and just blow it up. But these scouts are, and so they will be the object that I'm going to charge, but I'm charging with the intent that they're going to slingshot me, hopefully, into combat with that Whirlwind. So, I'm going to roll my dice here and hope for a fairly long distance charge. I rolled a 7. So, the first model I move has to be into combat with enemy model. So I'm going to move this Blightlord here. Then an inch of an enemy model. And then I'm going to continue to move my Blightlords 7 inches with the intent that I'm going to daisy chain them, as they say, out towards this Whirlwind. So actually I'm going to move this guy first, and I'm going to continue to move Terminators around here, so that way we can get to our real objective, which is that Whirlwind over there. I would then have to pile in towards the closest enemy model, which in this case for this Blightlord, 3 inches here, just over 3 inches to the Whirlwind. But all is not lost because I can still pile in towards the closest enemy model but still move closer to the Whirlwind. So if I were in the fight phase, I would then move my models on a pile-in, move slightly closer here to this guy and this guy, and move all these boys in. The idea would be that I would kill all of the guys in this squad, or at least enough that, say, this guy dies and this guy dies. And now the interesting thing is that the closest enemy model is no longer this scout squad for this Terminator. It is actually the Whirlwind. So when I do my consolidate move of 3 inches, I can actually consolidate him into contact with the Whirlwind, consolidate this guy forward, as well as this guy to help maintain unit coherency, because I can never move out of unit coherency. And in all of my 3-inch consolidate moves, I have now managed to tag this Whirlwind so that it cannot shoot in the next shooting phase while holding on in combat with some of these scouts. Now we're going to move on to trapping. Now, an awful lot like tagging, trapping requires you to have a strong understanding of how all the phases of the game Warhammer 40,000 interact with each other. We're faced with a similar situation in to a previous video where we have a Raven Wing Dark Talon here from the Dark Angel's army that really wants to mess up these Terminators when it gets a chance on its turn, and I really don't want that to happen. Now the problem with these Terminators is that they're very powerful, and if they really want to, they could probably kill that Whirlwind and all those scouts in the next turn, but I really don't want that to happen, because then my Terminators would be open to being shot at by this Dark Talon. So the key here is that I need to declare a charge against the Whirlwind and not the Scouts, because that way if I get into combat with the Scouts in the following fight phase, I don't kill them all in the fight phase. I don't want to do that. I want to keep them alive. So I'm going to declare the Whirlwind as my charge target. I roll my dice, and I roll a mighty 6. Now, the first model I move must get into combat with my original target. And I need to make sure I stay more than an inch away from all enemy models that I did not declare a charge against in the process, which include the Scouts and this Dark Talon. So I'm going to move this guy right here. He's going to move 6 into combat with the Whirlwind. But what I'm going to start to do here is I'm going to start to move some of these Terminators into position for the trap. So I'm going to move this guy here but I need to make sure I stay more than an inch away from the enemy model, so he's going to stay right about there. This boy is going to move right about there, and then this boy is going to move right about here. Then what I'm going to do is continue to move the rest of these boys up into combat here. Now, in the fight phase, what I'm able to do is pile in towards the closest enemy model. Not my charge target, but the closest enemy model. So, this guy here would have 3 inches to wrap around, because the closest enemy model is going to be the Scout here. And he's going to wrap around and come into base contact with him on this side. This boy is going to come into base contact with him on this side. And this boy is going to come into contact with him on this side. And then everybody else needs to maintain unit coherency while moving this closest enemy model. Now at this point it doesn't really matter if I destroy the Whirlwind or not. It's not going to be shooting the next shooting phase because it's been tagged in combat, which is something I'd really like to see. But the key is that my Blight Lord Terminators have managed to pile in, and you could even use a consolidate move as well, into the Scouts, and they've trapped one of them where there's no way for him to legally fall back out of in the Dark Angels player's movement phase. He cannot make a move where he is not within an inch of an enemy model at any time while he's making his move. Remember, falling back does not just make all the models standing around you disappear. They still count for being there. They still have zones of control, and by locking this model on 3 sides in base-to-base contact, there's nowhere for it to move. So therefore, it's locked in combat. The whole squad is locked in combat, and since I didn't declare them as a charge target, I wasn't able to fight them, which means none of them have died. So they are all trapped right where they are. Now they can fight back against my Blight Lord Terminators, and they might kill one. But that's fine because I have a bunch to choose from. I can just choose one of these guys in the back here to die. And what will happen now is that in the Dark Angels player's turn, he can choose to fall back the Whirlwind, but what he's not going to be able to do is to fall back his Scouts and allow his Dark Talon to move into a position to shoot my Terminators, which is exactly what I wanted, and that's what makes this a trap. So you can see it's a fairly involved maneuver that is all set up by the charge. You need to make sure that when you set up your charge move while you're planning this, that you don't declare a charge against the unit you want to trap, and you want to make sure that you then stop more than an inch away from an enemy model that you're trying to trap. And you want to be able to set yourself up that it is the closest enemy model, so when you do your pile-ins and consolidates, you can trap it. And you want to make sure when you move your other models in your charge that you can maintain your unit coherency while you do this. So there you have it, folks. That is how you tag and trap using your charge roll in the charge phase in the game Warhammer 40,000. I understand that we talked about a lot of other phases today, but you really need to have a solid understanding of the rest of the game's phases in order to perform this move to perfection and get the most out of it, to make it the most efficient you possibly can. So if you like this video, please like, comment, and share. If you want to know more about Dankless Wargaming, please check the description below. Until next time, I'm Bailey, reminding you that if your lists start to tank, then it is time to get dank.